In by Coloquian, low ball driven in, opportunity, pinged off the line. Early chance there. Luke Yates, central defender, able to get his head to it. Gavin Wigg, 12, the transfer from Western Michigan, central defender of that three-back system. 1-2 didn't connect. Devin, if you're Syracuse, you play Providence in the opener. Big East team, quality opponent that you're expecting. We'll come back to that. Here's the opportunity right at the doorstep.
I mean, McIntyre is going to be all about getting to the byline and getting guys like Jonah Leibold in advanced positions, cutbacks across, a staple of this team last season. But as mentioned, so good at those runs moving inside the top of the 18. So once you get there, where are those runs coming from? You know, that's probably one of my bigger questions coming out of that Providence game, because to your point, Down, you go out, you get a result. Okay, 2-0. It's always great to start on the front foot, give your team some confidence. But structurally, they struggled a little bit. They had to change their overall setup about 20 minutes in because they were struggling to get on the ball. And physically, they were dismantled.
They got 2 goals off, one of a set piece. But to your point, as Coach Mack told us, he didn't exactly like what they looked like in that first 20, despite the scoreline. Pedro Gosa finds the feet of Boselli. To Mateo Levesque, 7. That's Levesque again. He had the assist on the corner to Boselli. Levesque, head up. Transfer from UConn. It's Big East freshman of the year in 2021. 2-time All Big East player. That's the type of transfers they've gotten in here, Devin. Guys that are all league players across the board almost. Boselli trying to control it. Fouled, and Luis Reyes, the official was all over it.
Experience never hurts, getting a fifth-year player coming in, right? But the ability to get guys that are at a top level immediately upon entry into the Syracuse that is currently known as the Dream World. This is the national championship run last year.
Paul Marco, 22nd season as Binghamton head coach, took him to the 06 and 07 MAC titles. He's been to that MAC Conference Tournament Championship 7 different times, trying to get him back to that point and back into the big dance. Last year was a solid season for them. They got to the semis of the Bearcats tournament. Hadn't been there since 2015. And here's Levesque to play it in. The Nice product from France. Looking back post, and McDermott corrals easily. McDermott looking long for Lopez. Lukian heads it forward, try to get the path of Kashevsky. This is something we'll see today. The pace of play around throw-ins. Explain to me the tactics of Paul Marco and crew, because it is going to be 20, 30 seconds sometimes between throw-ins, especially if they get down in the attacking third.
Don't let Syracuse have it.
Yeah, there you go. All right.
No, all jokes aside, listen, they're a very direct team. And I mentioned week 1 against William and Mary that we saw a little bit of that, certainly from Mayo Lopez up top, the ability to get them out into space and transition quickly. But when that breaks down, this is going to be a game where ball goes out of bounds, drain the clock, take your time, get to it. Devin Hinu at the wingback spot tonight, he will be the one who drops these long throw-ins, and you'll see 30, 45 seconds. They're going to milk the clock for everything that they can because of the fact that they know the opportunities are going to be few and far between.
And a little talking to for Carlo Caballa. High boot catches Lorenzo Boselli. Studs were up. I mean, what do you think there? Is that he didn't get away? Got it with no card there.
Carding him in a heartbeat. And I like to let the boys play.
And that is a point of emphasis again this year, is talking to one of the head officials, Ryan Sigich, about, careless, rough challenges, you don't need to warn them. If you make that challenge and your studs are up, that should be a yellow early on.
And especially for a team like Binghamton in a moment like this tonight, let's be really clear, talent-wise, there's a massive separation. Yep. Syracuse, they get those transfers that are all leagues, right? They get the big recruits. Binghamton has to battle a different animal. And then education-wise, this is a very high-educated IQ school that Paul Marco has been able to chase. He says, we want good students, we want good people, and then we figure out where they fit on the field. So if you're in a situation where you might put your team in harm's way, picking up a yellow, obviously we don't want to pick up a red. What I'm getting at is there's not a lot of depth. So you have to question some of your decision-making to make sure that realistic opportunity against the Syracuse team, #1 in the nation, national champions, reigns supreme all night long. You don't want to put yourself in harm's way.
Well said, as Levesque can't track that down, so we will have another one of these throw-ins. You can actually see Devin Heaney just put his hands down like, relax, guys. We're not going anywhere.
He can throw it a mile, though. I mean, if he's 5 or 10 yards inside midfield, he'll put it at the penalty mark.
And you hear Coach Mack saying, stay higher. Why is he telling him to stay higher and not, because he don't want to keep walking him back into the...
It's secondary balls. If they drop off, and that first ball, which they haven't been able to get on, to be fair, if it comes into Amayo Lopez, if Marcos Terukis comes underneath, that advancement, you let them go long, even if they don't win the first ball, it's the second and the third that drops underneath. If you don't drip back, then all of a sudden that space isn't vacated. You push up against it, much more difficult to play through.
Gotcha. Coach Mack, you saw him there, the 2022 Coach of the Year, obviously with the national championship team, a team that went from unranked, picked to finish 6th in their own division to win the national championship. A lot of new faces, they molded them together. It's a similar situation here.
There you go, well done.
Nate Edwards couldn't keep it in play. Brampton, Ontario product. Purdue Fort Wayne played 40 matches for that squad. Started every game in 2022. Oh, high boot again. And they're going to play on advantage, but Levesque takes the shot right into the hands, and now it's Glucki and is still down.
Guys, come on, we got to get out now. Come on.
And good advantage there, though.
You got to give the advantage, absolutely, but still, the boot's really high. There's certainly contact. You come back to the player after the fact and say, I will have none of that. That's an extremely dangerous situation.
Eyeballed the German, connecting 1-2. He continues his run on, but tracked down nicely and ushered out by Michael Bush. Russell Bash ushered back up the field. Terukis on it. Bearcats trying to possess for a few minutes, looking long. Pedro Gosa reads it. Giorgio Krzyzewski on the ball, 3rd team All-ACC last year. Was also part of the USL2 Team of the Year. Played for the Long Island Rough Riders.
Dad, watch your shoulder.
And out for the corner. First of the match for the Orange.
Devin, come on, strong. You, strong. Will, be strong.
They scored at about this same minute in the opener on a corner. Levesque to Boselli in the 13th minute. A lot of bodies in the back post for the Orange. Outswinging ball. And it crossed the line. Out of bounds for a goal kick. So just talking about where the players they brought in last year and how critical they were. Obviously had great careers here at some years, some longer. A lot of them moved on. Abdi Salim, 1st-round draft pick, as was Levante Johnson, Sanford Sinclair, Russell Shealy. Buster Hoiberg is still on the roster here. He chose to stay. He's drafted by Vancouver and named not on there because he wasn't in the MLS Super Draft, but it was Nathan Opoku, All-American, that ended up playing. Got picked up by Leicester City, who is now a championship club. He's on loan in Portugal right now and playing.
And O.H. Leuven. He's been doing well for himself. Probably out of that entire list, he's really the one in top flight football that seems to be getting regular repetitions. You and I were just talking coming in that the two strikers, both Opoku and Levante Johnson, so impressive last year. Johnson was first-team All-American, Mac Herman finalist, really with the Vancouver 2 team doing MLS Next Pro. And here's one of those things we talked about. We said that Kevin Inu can throw it. Michael Bush, he can heave it too.
They got everybody up there, as that's how they scored their opener. Throw into the box, a lot of bodies. And Pablo Pedrogrosa won the ball there. Oh, another high boot. This is out of control a little bit here. He knew. And jeez. But Pablo Pedrogrosa, who was on the ball there, headed it. That's why part of why he's starting this match is a little better in the air and go with his feet, as Ian McIntyre told us, as opposed to Olu Oluogunle, who started nearly every match last year for the championship-winning team.
You can get a good look right now from a wide-angle lens that Binghamton's going to sit back. They're going to concede that space, and so you need a ball carrier on that back line. I would also say that that's the nice addition for the transfer and Josh Belluz coming out of the midfield. Regularly already seeing them drop into that 4-back look where you'll all of a sudden pinch one of your center backs high, let him become an attacking defender. Belluz comes out of the midfield. Now you retain more possession, easier to go side to side, and then quickly, when you find the moment, you can help stretch.
Hey, Jack, stay with them. Hey, Al, stay there. Jack,
Mikina, big switch for Leibold. Gets there nicely. Good touch into the box. Plays it across. Nobody home. Good recovery by Edwards as Jack Green was escaping down the left wing, the grad student from Anchorage, Alaska. Number 7 in white. Spent some time in the Portland Timbers Academy. Transfer from American.
How's your touch, by the way? Jonah Leibold, your Lord's son. Come on. You're going to hurt some feelings here in a second. But notice the hesitation, though. These are the things early on where you're just trying to figure out the rhythm, not just of the new players, but what the team's going to be like overall. That 45-yard ball didn't necessarily happen on a regular basis last year. They stayed in these quarters and tried to play off of each other, but that was as the season went on. So right now you see an opportunity, you pick it out, but Kacheski a little bit slow to react and can't hit the penalty mark running.
And let's be honest, folks, with men's college soccer, women's too, they just don't have enough time in a preseason to get ready. 10 days to figure out your team. Obviously, with all these transfers for Syracuse, but you talk to any coach in our league, men or women, it's the same thing. They would love more time with their athletes. It gives them a better chance to prepare. It helps them in terms of health and safety. So I hope eventually that gets done, because every coach will tell you right now, I'm not sure what I have. We're just trying to figure it out and keep people healthy to play.
Those 10 days are the best, worst days of your life.
I can't imagine what you guys were doing, especially if there were no rules back then.
Terrible.
You could play like you could do 3 a days.
Carry around a salt jar. Gallon of water, pouring the salt in, potatoes over the top.
Quick restart. Mikina and Edwards trying to connect. They do not. Able to save a corner. Well done on the back line by Yates. There's Yates also maybe saved the goal early in the match. Got his head on the only real dangerous attempt as Giorgio Krzyzewski had one from point blank. Did hit it clean. Boselli. Again, it's Yates. This one still for a throw. Laid off. Boselli in the box. Drives it low. Just wide.
This is one of the bigger talking points for Ian McIntyre, the head coach of Syracuse, Nicholas Kalukian, and how it was a little bit different than what you're going to get and the guys than Nathaniel Opoku and Levante Johnson. Opoku, he would be a hold-up player, but he would come deeper. With Kalukian, you can get that big, tall frame, just over 6 foot, play off of him, and he's really good. He's got soft feet. That's a real good look at what could be for this team moving forward, especially tonight, how compressed the field is.
And Pitt taking on Howard, and they're up 1-0 through an Albert Thorson goal. 1-0 in the 14th minute. Played back. Ooh, wow. Okay, the offside was called before that, but a little dangerous as Jay Vidovic's crew looking to go to 1-0-1. They drew Penn State in their opener. We'll talk about a number of the high-ranked teams in the conference, Pitt being number 5 in the nation. We'll talk about these teams at halftime. Devin will give you a bit of his breakdown, his scouting report. Kalukian trying to turn. Levesque. Still Levesque. Gets off across for a corner. Well done. And it's up onto Comstock Ave almost.
It's 2 balls now. Just giving out souvenirs left and right.
Do you hit it with your car, or do you hop out? I thought there was a Camry just rolled by, and I'm not sure they ran right into it.
Slow down, gently nudge it, then pick it up mile down the road.
There you go.
It's perfect. Take it home to the kids, right?
Good touch. Baldy played in. Second corner of the match. Outswinging ball again. Headed down. Loose. Cleared out by Tarukis. Okay, we're going to bring in Coach Mack now down on the touchline. Just over 20 minutes, just under 20 minutes in. Coach, what do you make of your team's performance thus far?
I think it's been a good start. Look, they've changed their lineup to really kill those spaces in midfield, and we're trying to kind of move the ball and kind of get some numbers out wide. Create a couple of half chances. Look, these are these kinds of games. It's embracing it and recognizing that we're going to, you know, there's going to be some awkward moments, and then trying to get the ball down and cause them some problems.
Coach, we already discussed the Providence game behind the scenes. What's the biggest area of growth you've seen from your team so far, 26 minutes into this match compared to your first game?
Well, look, in that game we were 2 up at this time, so probably gone backwards. But no, look, and Coach Marco's a terrific coach. He's kind of gone with a similar formation than Providence, kind of really flooding the midfield, and it's going to be us having some patience and moving it. But I think, you know, in these games we've started well. We've started on the front foot. We've just got to ensure that sharpness, concentration, and just ensuring that we keep our tempo high.
Coach Mack, appreciate your time.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Ian McIntyre, the reigning Coach of the Year, early ball played in, looking Coach of the Year in the ACC. Got a game of volleyball going on, finally on the deck. Inu looking upfield, and there will be a foul called on Josh Belluz. Drawn by Maya Lopez, the goal scorer in their opener. 2-1 L to William & Mary.
That's going to be a difficult matchup for him with Josh Belluz as we see him come deeper and deeper. And as we mentioned, possessionally, Syracuse want to hold it, kind of drift into a 4. Belluz finds himself marked up in a lot of one-on-one situations with Maya Lopez. Just over 6'6". Yep. Joshua Belluz is. I mean, that is not fun, I promise you.
Lopez 6'4". You got some big dudes up in there. Driven in. And Jason Schmidt, junior, transfer from Utah Valley, Carousen. Had a really good offseason, too, playing in USL 2. 3rd division of football in our country. Team of the league in the Park City Red Wolves. Ball played through. Belluz in a little bit of a foot race. Pedrogosa tracks back. Well done by Pablo. Villarreal native, Spain. You can hear Coach Mack saying, get out of midfield, Boselli. Why?
Well, he said we need 2 forwards, and Boselli's coming really deep, but what Binghamton are doing on the defensive front is they're dropping Carlo Cavalar next to Diego Vargas, so it creates a 2-man defensive stalwart just in front of the back 3. If you only have 1 up top, you're basically 1v5 at times, at least 1v4. So if Boselli pops out of midfield, goes higher, you drag her one with you, you open up more space. That way you can start to play through these little windows.
Got some world football. We'll talk about American football. The ACC football season begins Thursday, and we have you covered in Winston-Salem as Jonah Leibold is played out. Have you covered as it's starting at 4 o'clock Eastern with ACC PM. Then the Huddle crew takes you to kickoff between Wake Forest and Elon, and when it's over, the Huddle will be back with a complete breakdown. Nobody covers you like the ACC, like we do the ACC. Should be a great game. Seeing Mitch Griffiths and crew in Wake Forest trying to play Sam Hartman, Notre Dame, where he's quarterback now. They got their first win. Ball driven in. Headed down. Levesque. Mikina. Center back stepping forward. Last touch was heavy, and a lot of contact, but ball first. They're They're appreciating the tackles in French down there, I believe.
Ian McIntyre goes to England, and all of a sudden he's bilingual, trilingual, just giving out language lessons on the sideline.
I thought that might have been Coach Marco, but you're right. Boselli tries to get on the turn, but Vargas is right there. Mikina. Laid back to Edwards, a little bit of space, drives it. McDermott had it covered.
One of the biggest question marks coming in for the Binghamton Bearcats was goalkeeping position, and Dylan McDermott he stepped in nicely. The transfer from Marist University. They lost 3 last season, including their starter, Mats Roeder. And watch this thing dip on the tail end of it. Boom. Perfect execution, though. He's already got himself set up. There is traffic in front of him, but does a really good job of tracking it to the near post, even as it drops right in front of him.
Back called there with the arm high. Syracuse 5 shots, 3 of them on goal early on. Talked to Coach Marco about the opportunity to play the #1 team in the nation. Last time they did that, and they were also defending national champs, was Maryland back in 2006. They lost that game 3-0, and unfortunately, their bus broke down afterwards. So not the best memory for him, but does realize the opportunity that this team has. They're excited about it, and right now they're right there, 0-0, 25 minutes in. Leibold working, gets it in, headed out, and Levesque step. They want a counter opportunity, and can't find the feet of Lopez.
That same Maryland team, by the way, that was the inaugural year of one Dallas national team
player
in the United States.
Wow.
Team went to the regional final.
World Cup veteran. His shot taken by Boselli. Pings to Edwards on the turn. Edwards to Mikina. Has he played in again? No. Lays it out to Levesque. Levesque can't get it out of his feet. He's dispossessed by Tarukis. Well done by Pedrogosa, but ends up at the feet of Vargas. 1-2 opportunity to play it around the bend, and Lopez is on his horse trying to get there. Wig in a foot race. Lopez looking for the switch, but Leibold tracks back. Almost falls, and we're going to handball. Will Mahoney, sophomore from McLean, Virginia. There's Coach Marco.
It's a much better spell of possession, in quotations, by the way, for Binghamton, because of one Jack Green, who really last time out in this 4-4-2 diamond, he was the tip of that spear within the midfield, operating as the 10, but they're going to bring him a bit further onto this left-hand side. I mentioned that Carlo Cavalar will drop underneath with Diego Vargas. But Jack Green, as deep as this defensive unit is sitting, it is 100% a 5 on that back line right now. He's going to be the one to help extend the width of this field.
Edwards trying to track it down. He did get there. They said the whistle's not blown. Kalukian was almost there to pick it up. Levesque. Trying to connect with Lopez. Wow, not called. Ball's still on the deck. They want a handball. Not called. As we pass into just past the bottom of the hour here, Syracuse, New York, alongside Devin Kerr, I'm Dallin Cuff. First game here on the ACC network of the men's soccer season. The #1 team in the nation and defending national champs, Syracuse Orange, 0-0 with the Binghamton Bearcats. About 80 miles south on I-81. Made that drive today. Pinged out to Pedrogosa. Up to Leibold. Back to Levesque. A lot of space. Deflected well. There's Michael Bush again on the deflection. Pops out to Levesque. Got a dangerous left foot. Laying there. Still loose. Still loose. On there. Buckets. Mikina. opens his account as a Syracuse Orange member to put the home team up 1-0.
We were just discussing what happens when you bring Josh Belluz out of the midfield. Well, you get a better advancement off this back line, specifically, guys, and Pablo Pedregosa and Gabriel Mikina. As high as he comes, he trusts the spacing in front of him by Nate Edwards. And in the one-on-one situation, although Dylan McDermott does a really good job to come off of his line, the defender doesn't recognize the fact that he's got to spring into action. There's a bit of contact with the goalkeeper and just excellent vision and poise by the defender on his instep, right through, and the lead for Syracuse.
One of 3 Niagara transfers on this team. Scored 12 goals as member of that MAC club. Now his first as member of the ACC. Puts Coach Mac's team up 1-0.
Syracuse University goal scored by number 5, Gabriel Mikina. Assisted by number 18, Nate Edwards. And number 7, Mateo Levesque in the 28th minute.
Syracuse looking for more before the half. To Leibold, can't get there, well read by Yates. They're throwing out t-shirts to the stands. Nobody loves anything in life like a free t-shirt at a sporting event. Only there's a single thing, or free food.
Goodness, I would like the slingshot to go along with it.
Bro, we can take a person's head off here.
It's a little bit too close.
This isn't the Dome. Got a couple subs coming on here for Binghamton. Lopez and Green make way for Anthony Lazaridis, 24 in white. And 14 in white, Anthony Randazzo, a freshman from Huntington, New York, in the mix.
I would imagine he's going to change a little bit here. Go back to more of the 2-striker system. They really couldn't get Turukis on the ball enough to their liking, so we kind of just chased a bunch, and especially to stay in this game. I mentioned coming out and throwing a haymaker. Well, now it's time to punch back. 2 strikers come up high. Possessionally, you're going to allow Syracuse to have the ball. Put some pressure on them. Don't allow them to be so comfortable for the entirety of their spells that they've had, because it's been very simple to go back and forth, side to side. The main threat is obviously up over the top, but the idea now by Paul Marco is to eliminate some of their directivity of play.
Kalukian controls. Well done. Over to the goal scorer, Mikina. He's in a lot of space. Bearcats tracking back. Early ball driven in, deflected. And you saw 15, Daniel Diaz-Bonilla put that ball in. He transferred from Princeton. Former All-Ivy player, second team in 2021, honorable mention in 2022.
Only 5'11".
Back to take the corner in no rush. Doesn't beat the first man. That's not what you're looking for. But a chance to re-rack it. Swinging ball, dropped in a dangerous area, but nobody in orange and blue could bring it down. Kalukian keeps it in. Trying to get end line, and Be a corner. Nice tackle by Mahoney. Ian McIntyre lining up a number of subs, but he'll wait, let this group still operate.
Hey, Diego. Away wide!
Back to take.
Away!
Out swinging ball. Kalukian. Another opportunity, cleared off the line. Believe that was Hinu with a big-time play, almost would have been 2-0.
Yeah, this is much better, though, defensively, because even though they give up the first one, the second ball has been something they've really tried and hone in on, and they've done it. He does it in back-to-back sequences there. On the end line both times. Easily would have been 2-0 if not for his efforts.
It's actually Cavallaro, the man being subbed, who made that play. He comes off. 11 coming in. Calvin Moe joins the fray, the sophomore from Bainbridge Island, Washington. Bard college transfer. Appeals for handball, not given.
So the good news is for Binghamton Bearcats is starting to feel a little bit more comfortable. The bad news, so is Syracuse. Putting the ball on the deck, and a real good move just prior from boys in the midfield. Kacheski trying to combine with that front line. Been very impressed with Kalukian up top. They talked about him being a target man and staying high and playing off of him. It certainly happened a ton in this first half for Syracuse.
Powerful, got good feet. A couple great shots. He had 4 shots in the first game. One for Providence. It was 6 inches from just rippling the back of the net from about 22 yards.
Watch this kid right here, though, Mateo Levesque. This is your Big East freshman of the year back in 2021 for UConn, who has got a pretty solid left foot.
And you see Felipe D'Agostini, who just checked in the match, is over the ball as well. From this angle, it seems like Levesque, but D'Agostini, the transfer from Oral Roberts, the Brazilian native, standing there as well. Levesque! McDermott is there. Pretty.
He can hit it. There's no doubt about it. Set piece specialist. Hopefully, going to be one of the monikers for this young man who's just in his junior year, the Frenchman. Bird's eye. Just come across it a little bit more. He's got his goal. It's a very impressive strike.
We're up the other way with a long boot. Bearcats is trying to get the ball in the orange side of the field. It's been tilted. It would be an understatement in this match.
Oh,
man. And a couple more subs. This time, one from each squad. Number 9, Julius Rau, the German from Dusseldorf, checks in, the sophomore. He will replace Kalukian up top.
For number 32, Nicholas Kalukian. Substitution for Binghamton.
And for
number
Binghamton,
8, Billy Clark. For number 10, Marcos.
Billy Clark comes in for Torikis. And here's one of your long throws. Even from nearly mid 35 yards out, up the line, trying to get it into the box. Thrown in. Mikina, the goal scorer, gets head to it first. It falls. Appeals for handball. None given by Luis Reyes, and now we're off the other way on a race. Diaz Bonilla, early ball, play to the feet of Rao. And he's tracked down nicely. In the end by Will Noaker. Mikina trying to turn. Levesque, excuse me, he'll take the foul.
Dan, stand in front! Dan, stand in front!
It was a dream for Syracuse a second ago, having all that real estate to run into. Haven't seen that a ton this half. By the way,
yes,
some of these guys on camera, you wonder, you know, did they add 10 pounds? I was down on the field early with Michael Bush. He does not miss leg day. He is certainly in the gym. My man, some of these guys, can throw it that far. They're long and lean, but he is jacked. Let's be clear.
Levesque to play it in. Looking back post. Headed back in the fray, and McDermott off to claim. Not going to go quick, but it holds up.
And guess who again on the back post? Bush. Again. Yeah, he's been ever present, especially from argument's sake when it comes to the aerial route. I mean, there are no slouches back there. Will Mahoney, 6'3", Michael Bush, 6'5", Noah Kerr, 6'1", Yates, 6'1".
It's funny you mention that. We talked about it a bit with Coach Marco, like going through their roster. This is a big team, physical team.
Very tall. Although right now I'm sure he trades some of that for a little bit more tactical ability. But look, they're in it. I mean, they are, there's 7 minutes from the dressing room. It's just 1-0. You have to be happy.
See, this is the difference. I mean, I always speak from a perspective as a former basketball player, but there were times we played Syracuse as a mid-major team or other teams that are physically better than us, play at the high level, have a bunch of pros. In a basketball game like this, you're down by 20. Yeah. But in a soccer game, you're in the mix. You need one play, and you're right there. So it makes the dream a possibility. Why you see some major upsets, whether that be Saudi Arabia beating Argentina in the opener of the World Cup, where that team Argentina won the World Cup.
You and I were talking behind the scenes of what this Syracuse team was going to look like. You lose Russell Shealy in goal. Jathan Smith from Utah Valley State, he's no slouch, okay? Let's be clear. You lose Christian Curdy on the back line. Gavin Wigg, who was a part of that championship run last season, is a transfer, though, from Western Michigan. And as you move forward, you lose guys like Anthony Sinclair, but you gain guys like Joshua Belluz, so it's a plug and play. But the biggest question was always going to be up top, attacking-wise, what it's going to look like. And that's why it is only 1-0 at this point in time. 20 yards and in, Syracuse still struggling to get everybody on the same page.
He says, official has on the call there for Lazaridis went down. And on the ball, Diego Vargas, Jr., Switzerland. Had some youth looks at the Swiss national team, but also the Chilean youth setup as he curls it in, flicked on. Smith corrals just over 5 minutes to go here. Syracuse up 1-0 through a 28th-minute goal by Gabriel Mikina. And Smith throws it out. Tomorrow, women's sports takes over the afternoon on ACC Network with some early season matchups. Number 5, Pitt, host number 10, Kentucky in volleyball. Pitt went to the Final Four last year, 2-1 early in the campaign, noon Eastern. Then we'll have the soccer matchup between Arkansas and number 3, North Carolina. And we cap the afternoon with the field hockey, number 12, Wake Forest, host James Madison. Obviously, North Carolina, a very sad day, and we wish those there affected by the active shooter situation down there, those that were injured, those that families and individuals lost their life, the best in a very difficult time. Bush deflects out for another corner. Another sub coming in for Syracuse here. Ezra Whitman, the freshman, the only freshman, the lone freshman in the Syracuse incoming class. Played at Brooklyn Tech, out of New York City, but played with the New England Revolution Academy. They won the 2023 MLS Next Championship. And Levesque trots off, after having quite a good influence on this game. High ball. Headed down Mikina. Off the post, still alive. And out for another corner.
My man Michael Bush, all those transfers we're talking about, he's putting himself right into it. This is quite a showing for the center back from Herndon, Virginia. Just watch that big, tall frame of his. He knows that it's the second this comes off the bar. Watch him attack.
Oh, yeah.
Impressive, tactically, how quickly he just turns and explodes into that space.
Bush has been on the spot with a number of big-time plays to possibly prevent goals. Great ball whipped in, and Belluz was arriving but couldn't get it down.
Appreciate you importing this beautiful weather, by the way. Thank you for that.
Hey,
Anything
Syracuse
for
in
me?
the summer,
Okay.
baby. It's all good. Because I'll tell you what, it ain't going to be like this much longer. And if we were down where most of the ACC schools are right now, we'd be sweating hard. We are. I'm dry. I'm happy to be here with you.
Yeah, for once.
It is. It's rare. Usually people don't know. As soon as we take our headsets off, I can't stand this guy.
One of the students who is part of the broadcast team here, Philip Galati, he was an intern with IMG, and I had the pleasure of meeting him earlier this year on one of my jobs that I was a part of, and had lunch with him yesterday. And I sat and I looked around and I go, man, it is gorgeous here. And there's a pause, and I wait and I go, yeah, Ian McIntyre's not bringing anybody here in late October for recruiting purposes.
You got to be tough to play here. It ain't easy. Diaz Bonilla on it. Flips it in nicely, but nobody's making that near post run. It's McDermott Corrals under 2 minutes to go, looking to get into the halftime down 1-0 and regroup. Dermott drills it long. Azarides trying to combine.
1 minute remaining in the first half. 1 minute remaining.
Coach Mack be happy? Break it 1-0?
He's going to be happy with the lead. He's not going to be happy with the overall performance. Everything for them defensively hasn't really been challenged, right? I mean, if you're Jason Smith right now, you certainly haven't broken a sweat. Most moisture that you're picking up is from the remnants of the rain pregame. It's jumping up onto your jersey. And look, they've shown you a ton of different shapes, so that's good. But they haven't really done a ton with it, which is the problem. And it's kind of the problem they had in the first game. They've adjusted, but still everything goes down to 20 yards and in, because that's where the biggest issue was going to be coming into the season. And that's exactly where they're sitting at this point in time, just trying to find a way to get all those ideas that they talk about all week long to matriculate into the final third.
Well, we'll go to break here. Syracuse up 1-0. Before that, though, we'll be joined by Paul Marco in just a second here as Jonah Leibold, one of the 3 starters from that championship match last year against Indiana, in today's lineup. 8 new faces starting, 7 transfers this year. They beat Providence in their opener 2-0. They're up 1-0 at the break right now against the Bearcats out of the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference. And as Coach Marco gets ready to come on here, Coach Marco joins us now. Coach, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. You guys down 1-0 at the break. What was your Chuck Schumer from the state of New York, getting a little jersey there, talking with the boys. And we're about to kick off here back at Syracuse. As 1-0, the reigning national champs lead over the Binghamton Bearcats. Alongside Devin Kerr, I'm Dallin Cuff, coming to you for the second half. Our first game on the ACC network. Honored to be back with you. Traveling through the conference throughout the season. The best conference of college soccer. Second half underway again. Felipe D'Agostini starting in the second half. 11 just goes down. The Brazilian. Jason Smith, one of his rare touches in this match. As Devin said at the break, back-to-back games now Syracuse has not surrendered a shot in the first half. Their first opponent, Providence, out of the Big East. It's a 2-0 win. Josh Belluz, a transfer from Villanova, on the ball. Ball play to the feet of D'Agostini. Giorgio Krzyzewski back in the match. Over to Mateo Levesque. Pablo Pedrogosa, the transfer from NC State. Talk about a guy with experience. Pedrogosa, 66 ACC games. 66 games he played for the Wolfpack. Knows what the ACC is all about. Belluz handling Lopez pretty simply, and he came back from an offside position.
I thought you were talking about Jackson Walty there for a second. All the games he played for Pitt in their midfield.
The most capped player in the history of Division I soccer, Jackson Walty. Competed 6 years at Pitt, went from a walk-on to a captain of a team that went to the Final Four. Outstanding career for Jay Vidovich. Pitt now up at Howard right now. They're up 3-0 at the break in their match against Howard, not at Howard, excuse me. Kalukian and Levesque combining. Leibold trying to make the run in behind, and this will go out for corner. Seventh of the match for the Orange. Levesque, the transfer from UConn, to take it. All Big East player, 2 years there, the Huskies. A lot of traffic around McDermott, the keeper. Might fall to D'Agostini. Tried to clip it back in. Missed kick by Vargas, and this one is up in the stratosphere. Oh, Levesque tried to bring it down. So what are you watching here early in this second half, as we are still in a 1-0 game? So they're all to play for both teams.
Let's start with the home squad and the reigning national champions, Syracuse. If Binghamton continues to sit, as they did in the first half, which right now they're showing us that, you just got to play quicker. They're going to give you the ball. Even if it is side to side, keep the ball moving, because every single touch, every single pass makes the opposition move. So make them feel uncomfortable by having to track side to side, and then you can start to find some moments where you play through them. If you're Binghamton, you heard it from Paul Marco, their head coach. 22 years of experience, he hit the nail right on the head. Structurally, on the back line, you have to be happy, but at some point in time, you've got to hit that release valve and get some pressure up top against the back line of Syracuse.
Lukian tries to bring it down. It falls to Diaz Bonilla, the transfer from Princeton. Lukian, the transfer from Michigan. Unanimous all-freshman team from the Big Ten last year. Lukian can't get out of trouble there. Booster Hoberg, number 19 in orange and blue. You see him there. It's become a staple for this Syracuse team. Ball at his feet now. Paid through so much pain last year, had off-season surgery on his hips. Told me a couple weeks ago he feels like a new person, new man, ready to go, getting his fitness down, getting his pace of play, but a very talented young man that can help this team. It has in the past. Oh, what a touch. Combination. Leibold charging at the defense. Still Leibold. Deflected. Falls to him and high. Just couldn't keep it down.
There's one of those moments we just talked about. Again, off the back line. Guess who started it? Josh Belluz. And then as you come forward, it's a really good touch, but I think the run's even better, because Jonah Leibold, everything for him is about being on the exterior, using that touch light to your advantage, but the inversion down underneath, that's something that Binghamton probably didn't see in the first match, I can tell you that much, and certainly has not seen so tonight. Diversify going forward, and a good look for Syracuse.
It's a good look, too, at the Syracuse women's team, who beat this very same Binghamton University squad yesterday. And they're about to go on a 5-game road trip as Krzyzewski plays up to D'Agostini. He floats it back post, arriving, but Diaz Bonilla couldn't get good purchase on it.
D'Agostini, this is some kind of ball. This is everything that you want it to be. A little bit further, but it's also one of the most difficult ones to hit. You're exploding one direction, you're trying to take pace off the ball, but put a little bit of loft all the way to the backside. Spin usually comes with it, which allows it to sit up. Diaz Bonilla, just a little hesitation, can't get into it. Much better, though. Notice 6 minutes in. It's quicker decision-making, more rapid going forward.
D'Agostini seems like a special, interesting player, and
Yeah.
Coach Mack said he's got that very, very Brazilian in his flair and touch and talent.
Bonito,
Yeah, Jogo
right?
Bonito.
It's something different. And again, they didn't have that last year. They had players that showed you different things, but not this profile. This is different, and he's going to challenge teams for sure. The real question's going to be is who's the relationship with?
Yeah.
Again, we said coming in that you lose 62.5% of goals. Certainly, Vontae Johnson and Nathan Opoku in that conversation, but those two were always in sync with each other. Does it rotate up top, or does it stay with really two main guys?
It's going to take time. I mean, you think about Boselli. Boselli got really in the groove, really hit October. He had big goals and big games of the Clemson and the ACC final. He scored big goals in the tournament run as well. But he wasn't really, he was a bit part player in August and September.
Backup wingback.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you're looking at a guy who's, one of the leaders of this team wearing the captain's armband, who's playing in that false nine position to try and push things going forward, the most creative on the pitch at times.
And Binghamton going to make an early change here. And just a reminder, as Calvin Moe comes in, you can exit the game in the first half. You can't re-enter in college soccer. In the second half, you can exit the game and you can re-enter. So Carlo Cavallar's night is not necessarily done. And here comes your long throw-in. That is Michael Bush up there. Pinged around and a foul called on Turukis. Pedrogosa stepping forward. Villarreal native. And looking for some help from the assistant referee. On the near side, Jim Byers says it will be Binghamton ball.
Where's he going, ref?
Taking their time as we talk about pace of play. It's been about a minute of the ball out of play. And unlike the international game right now, or the English game, where they're trying to eliminate that and make you play a lot of injury time, there is none of that in college soccer. As Ray says there is a foul on that play.
Just got to swallow your whistle, right? Just the difference.
It's one thing to kill the clock off, right? But it's another, it just disrupts the overall rhythm
Flow.
for
No flow.
Syracuse. And yeah, you feel like, all right, we've got some momentum going here. Okay, let's get everybody going. Then all of a sudden you got to slow down. Your brain starts to get bored.
I was going to ask you, how hard is it not to switch off? Because again, in soccer, it's that one
very
moment.
Hard. Yeah, it becomes frustrating too because, okay, rhythm is one thing. To me, it's the emotional aspect.
Yeah.
Because you sit there and you think, ref, what are we going to do here? Can you do anything about it? And then that frustration continues to mount. It takes a lot of discipline for a player to not let that affect him.
That's why to play basketball. Just you go up and down. I'm like the little bear with Homer Simpson's head. Just
That's why I was the most carded one on the team. I was known to frequent the referee's book, and usually because of my verbal disputes, just to say.
Dissent.
Always in a polite manner, but certainly aggressive in nature.
That's Devin Kerr. I'm Talon Cuff here. SU Soccer Stadium, the defending champs up 1-0 over the Binghamton Bearcats, and have their 8th corner of the match now. Mateo Levesque to take another one. A lot of teammates on that back post. Kalukian on the near post. Leibold unmarked at the top of the 18. Let's see if he sees him. No, he does not. I follow to Leibold anyway. It does. He clips it back in. Headed in! That's it! Belluz, 6'6", made it look simple. The transfer from Villanova opens his account in an orange uni.
The DNA of this team is all about transfers, immediate impact, and finding ways at this moment in the final third to be included in the conversation as what could be one of the best attacking units again in college soccer. And while Josh Belluz has been on the back line, helped distributing going forward, the physical presence been there in the 50-50 balls. With that tall a stature, he is certainly a threat going forward. 51 games for Villanova. Only one time did we see him hit the back of the net. 2 games in, pay dirt for Josh Belluz and Syracuse with the 2-0 lead.
Belluz gets that goal, the Toronto native. As you mentioned, he only scored one other time at Villanova, but he played and started in 50 of the 51 matches he was there for. His value is in other ways, but he's adding value right there. And well played by Jonah Leibold to not just give it a rip, but to clip it back in and give Belluz the opportunity.
Scored by number 33, Josh
I love the PA announcer. I hope that came through on our mics.
You know what that means? It's t-shirt time.
And the crowd comes alive for t-shirt time as Pedro Gosa gets ready to throw it in. Great crowd here at SU Soccer Stadium to watch their squad. Up 2-0 now. That was their advantage in the final 90 minutes after the opener against Providence. And there's Belluz, your second goal scorer, Gabriel Mikina, in the 28th minute. Again, you keep here 2 Toronto natives scored, transfer from Niagara and Mikina, and as we mentioned just a minute ago, Villanova from Belluz, for Belluz.
The level of importance that he's going to bring to this team, though, I'm a big fan of his, super efficient on the ball, but really it's the different looks that he gives you going forward because they've played him in a deep lying 6. He's taking over the position from Anthony Sinclair, the Costa Rican youth national team player who got drafted 54th overall in the MLS Super Draft this season to Real Salt Lake. He was the stalwart on the inside, one of the captains, always leading, very physical, but he didn't have that ability to drop further onto the back line to help possess. Josh Belluz gives you that look. So as he comes, you can play around him. When you get against teams like a Pitt, like a Georgetown, a Wake that want to play, you play him higher, and he gives you more pressure within the midfield. A big loss in Anthony Sinclair, but a massive gain in Josh Belluz.
Diaz-Bonilla rides a challenge, tries to connect. Levesque ushers it along to Pedro Gosa. Leibold looking for Kucheski, but well read by Bush. The Wiesbaden German native. Grew up in different academies in Bundesliga 2 and 3. Oh, that is tough, but no call. Lukian, and he'll stay with the orange. I know folks can't see. I like to take people behind the curtain at times. Why are you calling the game on one knee? Devin is currently on a knee calling the game. I don't know what's going on.
I'll give you a compliment. Your presence is as glorious as it is. It's also obstructing my view. So I'm just coming to a lower angle so that my vision is a bit more clear down into this corner.
Do whatever's necessary. These guys will too. This got physical right here. Bodies colliding. Belluz plays it out.
Reminder, that's what we were just talking about. He's up high. He's right next to Hoiberg on the back line, and then Josh Belluz tracking the 9. About 15 separate yards to get stuck in on that 50-50 challenge.
Marcus Nahim just checked in for Mayo Lopez, freshman from Ossining, New York, out of Iona Prep. It's a speedster. It's a track and field All-American, number 20 in white. He's New York State champ indoors in the 4x200 relay and the 4x100 relay. He can move. Playing in that right wing spot, right forward, if you will.
I'm going through my prep for their game against William and Mary, and I'm watching, and this is before I had gone through the bios and looked at the background, and first note that I made about him, he can fly. And then I get into the bio and I go, oh, you know what, that makes sense. He was a track star. Okay. Good to know.
There he is, 20 in white. Nahim.
As direct as they want to be here in the second half and not having the ability at all in the first 45 minutes. It's something that Paul Marco is going to look to take advantage of right now. The width has been much better defensively, eliminating some of those threats down into the corner, certainly comparing the opening portion of this match, but they still got to find a way to get some action up top to help out.
That's probably the most bodies forward I just saw right there in that throw-in. As they were going in transition, Syracuse almost had something on there. Lukian tries to ride the challenge. A foul is eventually called on Bush. Bull tries to play it quick, and McDermott is on it. Got a great week of ACC football coming your way. We start on Thursday. BC hosting Northern Illinois at noon Eastern. This is Saturday, excuse me, hosting Northern Illinois noon Eastern. Then Pitt hosts Wofford with Colgate and Cuse on ACC Network at 4 and extra at 4 Eastern. And we cap the day with Old Dominion taking on Virginia Tech and Blacksburg at 8 Eastern. Every game also available on the ESPN app, so you can watch anywhere. Remember last year, Old Dominion did beat Virginia Tech at home. The little brother beat the big brother, an in-state rival. And for the Syracuse match, as we mentioned, as they take on Colgate in their home opener, Ian McIntyre and the 2022 National Championship team shall be recognized. Very cool event there in the Dome. Dino Bambers and crew look to get back to a bowl. 9th corner of the match for Levesque. Outswinging ball. And down. McDermott, though, right there.
He's been good tonight, McDermott. The goals that have been scored certainly weren't his fault, and especially the first one. As quick as he was to get to the near post, just getting tangled up with his own player. Couldn't recover. As many question marks as there were coming in because of the loss of all 3 of their goalkeepers this season. They added 4. Dylan McDermott has put himself atop the pedestal in that conversation for Paul Marco and the Binghamton Bearcats. Transfer from Marist University, but only had 5 appearances in, or excuse me, 2 appearances through 5 overall. For 4 seasons, and he's been commanding.
Foul there, called a Maheen. So cross into the under the 28-minute mark alongside Devin Kerr. I'm Dallin Cuff. Rescue Soccer Stadium, the home of the reigning 2022 national champs, taking on the Binghamton Bearcats, up 2-0 through a Gabriel Mikina goal in the first half and a Josh Belluz goal in the second half. NC State up 2-0 on USC Upstate. Just got their second goal. Big opportunity for them to get a win. Lukian trying to run it down and goes out for a throw-in. Duke started very well in the season here. They're 2-0. Notre Dame drew with Indiana, last year's runner-up to this very Syracuse team, and then Notre Dame won 5-0 against IUPUI. A couple subs coming back in the game. Ned Edwards and Lorenzo Boselli. In for Diaz Bonilla and D'Agostini. How important is the start in terms of getting wins? You mentioned Clemson lost to a good UCF team that's been in the tournament multiple times in recent years. But how important is the early part of the year here before we get into league play?
Wins help. You know, the feel good of let's keep this momentum going. If we win, we can do anything. I mean, that's certainly part of a confidence builder that helps push your team into good spots to handball. But you'll hear from many a coach at this point in time that regardless of results, they're just trying to figure out what they're all about.
Yep.
And so when we start having conversations later in the season, 10 games in, 12 games in, yeah, you want to be in the right spot, but more importantly, you want to have the form that can get you to a different spot. You want to have the form that says, okay, we experienced all of that. Remember week 1, week 2, regardless of win, lose, or draw, we've already seen that. We know how to react. Certainly, if you've had the results along the way, that helps.
Nothing can replace winning in terms of confidence. It's so important in any sport, but especially in this modern college basketball, college soccer and basketball and every other sport with so much transferring, you got to find a way to gel in these sports that are based on rhythm and timing and touch and teammates, especially.
Well, an interesting conversation to that point that I had with Brian Weiss, the head coach of Georgetown, and we talked about scheduling. And, you know, gone are the days on a regular basis where you're getting layups the first couple of games of the year, right? You know, that UCF team that beat Clemson, let's be clear, that's still an upset, but that UCF team is extremely talented, top 25 last year.
Holberg heads it out, falls at Vargas, and that's their first shot attempt. North.
And the reason being is when those conversations start to occur with the committee, you can't be 10 games in and then start playing your conference and play the ranked teams in the ACC then. You got to schedule strong. And so we're seeing teams like Syracuse, like Clemson, like North Carolina, Duke, and I'm just naming ACC because we're doing ACC right now. Yeah. First game of the year last year, you and I were calling Clemson, Indiana. Yeah. I mean, that was the #1 overall team, and Indiana at that point in time, I believe, was 8. They were very, very good. And so, yeah, you want to chase results too, because you don't want to leave any doubt in the committee's mind as to whether or not you belong in the postseason. North Carolina, great example of that last year. Yeah. Bubble team for sure, but their strength of schedule helped the RPI to bump them into one of those top 30 teams.
Levesque on the ball, head up. He's got Krzyzewski, doesn't play him. And that'll go out for a goal kick. On that note, let's take a look at Syracuse's upcoming schedule because it is interesting. Penn State, there's a coaching relationship. You can speak to that in a second. You got you're on the road too. Albany, local rivalry here. Then you got a Louisville team that just beat Tulsa, number 16 in the nation, a very talented team. That's your ACC opener at home. That'll be on ACC Network as well. We'll be calling that game. Siena, and then on the road at top 20 Wake, which has more than top 20 talent.
Could be 3 losses out of 5. And I'm not saying they're going to, but
that's
Wake Forest, that's a team that's going to make some noise this year nationally, not just in the ACC ranks. They're going to look different, a little bit more of a work ethic team as opposed to the tactical breakdowns that they like to go for. John Michael Hayden and Louisville, they're going to return a bunch of players. Even that Siena team, they can play a little bit. But you were talking about the Penn State relationship. And it's what you lose, not just on the field, but off the field for Syracuse. And Sean Lawler, the longtime assistant coach for Ian McIntyre, took off to be with Jeff Cook and kind of made a joke about how, you know, maybe they're not going to let his family, who's still here, come to the stadium and experience some of the play that has gone on in the field tonight. That, Rich, by the way, and we'll give you more about that in a second, is a rough one. Watch the step on the turn right here. Oh, his ankle.
And Bush has done so well today.
Best player in the field.
Yeah. He's been outstanding. He's saved really potentially a goal in the back post in the first half, and he's trying to walk it off. The grad student. From Herndon, Virginia.
The hiccup in the step seems to be gone.
Will remain in the match. Looks like. Paul Marco up off the bench, trying to get a read on what we should do here.
So you lose all those players, right? But the Sean Lawler conversation, although he joked about it, that was where the quote at the beginning came up about newness comes uncertainty. And within that uncertainty, you have to find a way to get used to a workflow to ensure communication. It's another challenge that the coaching staff have to deal with, but they've embraced it. They said, listen, you know, we trust what we have here. I mean, certainly, how can you not? Because not just the national championship winning team of last season, but all the players that you've pushed into the pros. We talked about Anthony Sinclair, Russell Shealy. Those are just some. DeAndre Kerr and his regular appearances for Toronto and MLS. Tons of talent. coming through this program.
But you mentioned that the newness. He also talked about how that does keep it fresh. Like this team, they weren't, when they raised the band, dropped the banner the other day, they weren't disrespectful. They were excited for their teammates, but most of them weren't part of the team. So, and these guys were together a lot in the spring. They had a chance to go to England in May, and wow, look at D'Agostini. Come back to this in a second. What a touch on Edwards. Can't get there. McDermott swarms. That's what D'Agostini, again, showing why the Brazilian is special.
Impressive. He's so impressive. Comes down underneath, and then the little spin has that ball through the tight window. Now, to be fair, if you're Luke Yates, continue that run over to close that passing lane through. But a great diagonal run from Nate Edwards on the outside almost pushes it past Dylan McDermott.
But just to finish that thought about going to England together, first of all, they played U21 teams. They played Leicester, who's now in the championship, but had been in the Premier League for years. Tottenham, who's a staple in the Premier League. You have opportunities to play Villa, Aston Villa, all types of different teams, Brighton. But then they also got a chance to watch Leicester City play Liverpool in a Premier League match. And they also saw the Champions League semifinal at Manchester City taking on Real Madrid, two of the, 5 biggest clubs in the world. Man City, the best club in the world. It's an amazing experience, but within that, they had Alan Smith, the former great Arsenal striker, come and talk to the team. And he was in the late 80s, early 90s. Many FIFA fans from the video games remember his voice, grew up listening to his voice in that game. He still is on it. But tell them, one thing he regrets about their Arsenal days when they were so good is they didn't keep it fresh. They didn't change. They were stagnant in it, and eventually they got passed by other clubs. Shot, save as Boselli tested McDermott. And that kind of lends into what Coach Mack is doing here. Like, there's a lot of changeover, so everybody here remains hunger. And there's a culture, though, from talking to Noah Singleman and Lorenzo Boselli a couple weeks ago. They said, we're proud of this culture. We are a tight group. Most of them live in a couple different houses. They are tight, they're connected. As soon as you come in, there's a very welcoming feel. And every one of the new guys expressed the same thing to me. And they're excited to be here and see what they can do and maybe go back to back. Steeney trying to get on it, but Bush beats him to it. McDermott into the Syracuse night. Just bumped off the ball. There's Noah Singleman, second-year captain from Germany, dealing with an injury right now. Hopefully he's back fully healthy soon. Impacts his team so much on and off the pitch. Vargas, well done, over to Bush. Noaker had time, but just blasted it down to Smith.
The balance in the midfield is interesting for Binghamton. There's just been a little bit of a change here. Whether or not they continue with it is going to be interesting. If you watch on the left-hand side of your screen, he's about to pop in, is right there, 27 in white. Diego Vargas was playing really deep to start, and then as they shifted into this box midfield, all of a sudden here in the second half, Calvin Moe is the one who's playing off the right shoulder, who's coming deeper. They're trying to push Vargas into a more advanced position. He's really tactical on the ball. The idea that in those turnovers you can play off of him, because they've primarily been playing around him, and defensively he's just tracking side to side. But he's too talented to not be involved in the run of play.
A couple subs again. Anthony Lazaridis comes in, and Mateo Lebec exits, as is Giorgio Krzyzewski.
Number 7,
Jack Green checked out as well. Anthony Randazzo comes back in, 14 white. As the ball tried to play. Edwards not going to get there. But a couple different players in orange making their appearance. As number 12. Gavin Wigg came back in the match. Boselli pops it out to the aforementioned Wigg. Boselli to Leibold, first time cross. Oh, in a dangerous area. But well played by Noaker.
They start to get this combination play right, exactly what players are going to appear where. You're looking at someone in Jonah Leibold that could start to move up the ranks for most assists in the country. He's that good. And one-on-one situations, absolutely. But he just understands positionally when to sit out in this space and when to attack it. A real good look at why. Great vision and patience.
10-0 in corners here. In swinging ball, McDermott. Good punch to it, but not fully clear. Mikina, the first goal scorer, recovers. Finds the feet of Oberg. He lobs it in. Knocked down. Sheshki, pass to Pedrogosa. Oh, thought it would be a little 1-2, but Vargas was there instead. Leibold still charging forward. Sheshki connecting with D'Agostini. Oberg. Working on my Swedish pronunciation.
You're getting there.
Hey, I'm trying.
You got the German down. I'll give you that much.
Wiesbaden.
You are right there, my friend.
I'm talking to we'll come back in a second as Edwards starts charging forward. Oh, and he is clipped down cynically. That has to be the first card of the match, and it is. Luis Reyes. We'll put Devin Hinu in the book.
So quick, Nate Edwards. We've seen it more so in this match than we did in the first. Both Nate Edwards and Jonah Leibold have done a really good job of that little half pivot where you keep your hips open to be able to challenge either direction. They're coming back to the inside.
Their Ontario product. Nate Edwards is. And player down, Will Mahoney for the Bearcats. As you mentioned, Edwards is from Ontario, as are the two goal scorers, Mikina and Belluz. Very common to have a Canadian pipeline here in a lot of Syracuse sports, particularly soccer. And obviously Kamal Miller now playing in Inter Miami with Leo Messi and played in the World Cup with Canada. Tajon Buchanan, same thing, World Cup veteran now.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
Still a child, but he's a veteran.
Still is.
For sure. Some tired legs for that man right there, and Will Mahoney.
Mahoney limping off, and sub will be made for him. 16 comes in the game. Joe Spires, senior from Casavonia, New York, Manhattan transfer.
That's class, by the way, just down in front of us. Little fist bump from Ian McIntyre and the recognition of the shift that Will Mahoney has put in for the visitors.
D'Agostini checks out.
Substitution for Binghamton, number 16, Joe Spires. Number 22, Will Mahoney.
Kalukian went back in the match. D'Agostini. Driven in. Opportunity into the back of the net. And it's being claimed by Boselli. But Krzyzewski played it in. But two veterans of last year's championship team connect yet again. And Boselli gets his third of the season.
The delivery's incredible. I mean, all you're doing here, if you're Krzyzewski, and I say all with an asterisk, is trying to find a way to hit this gray area right around the penalty mark. it makes the goalkeeper hesitate, and that's a real good look. He starts and then immediately starts to backtrack. Positionally, he's out. And I'll tell you what, you tell me 2 games into the season that Boselli's got 3 goals, I'm with you. All 3 from the air, I tell you, you're out of your mind, and yet this is the reinvention that Syracuse is looking for from an attacking standpoint. You lose 62.5%. You don't necessarily need to go chase 1 or 2 9s. Instead, Boselli, an afterthought last season at the beginning, now a massive impact in the start of 2023.
And after that second goal of Providence, 13 minutes into the match, he pointed to his head and laughed and kind of gave like an MJ in the finals back in the day shoulder shrug like, yeah, I don't know. Well, add another one to that. 3 goals now for Boselli, who was a 3-time national champion in terms of his junior college performance. The career he had there at Dallas College in Richland down in Texas. Player of the year in the JUCO ranks, then comes here, wins a championship on the NCAA level, and now he's leading the line for this squad with 3 goals through the first 2 matches.
I think he wears all his rings at once, or how are we doing that?
Only had 3 goals all of last season, has already equaled his tally less than 180 minutes into this season. People are going bonkers again for free shirts. Somebody's going to get injured in front here. There's a melee.
It's got to be me leaning out the window trying to get one.
I'm sure we can find somebody to hand you one in a polite manner, but if you'd like to get down on the fracas, feel free.
The smell of the grass, it gets me.
I saw you about 90 minutes, 100 minutes before kickoff walking around as there's another collision. This is not good. Lazaridis is now going to go in the book as well.
In the shape on the inside, they've been much better compared to the game against William and Mary, but that's just late to the party if you're Lazaridis. He knows it. Frustration mounting after the 3rd goal given up. Let's be really clear tonight. It's the set piece, absolutely. That's probably the worst marking, respectfully, that we've seen from them, because they've been very good in those situations. The problem is they just haven't had the complement on the other end of the field, attacking-wise. So Turukis, Mayo Lopez, Anthony Randazzo up there. You defend for so long, sometimes frustration just mounts and you knock it away.
Krzyzewski tried to drive it over to Mikina. Oh, Edwards. He's chopped down now. If you're in McIntyre, you just want to get out of this game healthy now. And a little extracurriculars here between Lopez and Belluz. They've been going at it all night in a clean fashion.
The long hair and the headband look.
It's a good look. Never, I mean, not personally, I never was able to do it. It's more of an afro into a headband.
Some are grateful for that, you know. Never did the braids?
No, that was, my dad was allowing that. But I had quite a fro. The boy with the golden fro was commonly known as back in the day. Not the best delivery there. Fresh legs for Spires. Dispossessed by Leibold. Leibold is, man, is a powerful, fast dude.
He reminds me, he's stronger.
Yeah.
But he reminds me a little bit of Paul Visa from University of Virginia. Visa being on the right side, though, right? And just how good the two of them are, both in open spaces and then these little combination areas they like to play through. Most importantly, on the backside of that is when they're given the opportunity, how clean of a ball they are able to serve into the box. That Virginia team, by the way, mark my words, they're going to make some noise this year, too. I talked about Wake earlier. I like the Cavaliers' chances in the ACC and in the national rankings.
Real quick, they have a couple subs. Belluz, the second goal scorer, comes out. They were minutes away, UVA, from beating this very Syracuse team on this field, the ACC semifinal. Opportunity on the doorstep. Ricochets back to McDermott. But Lorenzo Boselli in the 86th minute, scored a goal, ties it up. They win. They move on to the final. There was a field storming here after that game, which you don't see every day. Very cool. But that UVA team was knocking on the door. They had a rough start, though, so far. They beat Iona, but they lost to Loyola Marymount.
I remember yesterday. 4 games into last year, they were 2-2.
True.
Going into that Virginia Tech team that Mike Brizendine was in charge of and struggled, after which 8-2-5, including 6-1-5 in their last 12. I'm obviously removing PKs from the conversation, but talking with our producers as we approach postseason play, got a lot of questions about who I thought would be involved, not just within the ACC tournament, but within the NCAA conversation. And I said, this is really simple. Syracuse is the #1 team, and if they don't make a run at the title, University of Virginia will be the other squad. And they proved it. They both were really, really good. Yeah. Of course, only one gets to wear the star. This season, the Cavaliers have 8 others that they get to wear atop their crest.
That's true. They got those. Diaz Bonilla checked back into the game, and Krzyzewski bumped off the ball, and Lopez fouls again. Under 10 minutes to go here, Syracuse Stadium. Home team up 3-0. Now you see a Syracuse team not in a rush anymore. They wanted tempo at the beginning of the second half, wanted to get this thing going quicker. Now I think they're happy just to coast this out the last 9:25 and move on to 2-0. And move on to their focus of beating Penn State in Happy Valley on September 1st.
Jeff Cook's turned that program around. They were very good for a long period of time and on the up and up again. Won the double 2 seasons ago in the Big Ten.
Krzyzewski last time in had the assist. And a lot of contact with McDermott, and they will call the foul. Mentioned the double, though. The treble is what Syracuse won last year. Only the second ACC team to do that. And the treble is winning your division, winning the ACC tournament, and winning the NCAA tournament. UNC did it back in 2011, Carlos Sawano's first year. That said, let's talk about some football. The ACC Huddle returns Saturday from Blacksburg with Kelsey Riggs, Eric McLean, EJ Manuel, Mark Richt, and Eddie Royal. Coverage begins at 11 a.m. Eastern right here on ACC Network and the ESPN app with pregame, postgame, halftime shows throughout the day, culminating in a wrap-up show after Old Dominion and Virginia Tech. Brent Pry's crew looking to move to 1-0 after last year they opened the season on the road, losing to the Monarchs, the in-state rival. Diaz Bonilla trying to get himself out of trouble. Finally does to Hobert. Ping it one more time. There you go. We got Andre Cutler de Jesus in the game, the defender. The junior plays it up to Nate Edwards, who wandered off sides. Cutler de Jesus, a Marist transfer, wearing number 3.
It's another little wrinkle that Syracuse have added to their arsenal, if you will. Again, you lose pieces up top, but other areas have probably gotten better, to be honest, because the back 3 last year just kind of sat, absorbed, and then immediately tried to push that tempo going forward. You know, Christian Kurti and Abdi Salim Moberg were involved in that conversation. Although the bodies have changed, the look has changed too, because they're much more aggressive. The addition of Josh Belluz we've talked about, but the ability to, they just seem more comfortable on the ball, coming off the back line and making the first line of confrontation higher.
Michael Bush goes right through Kalukian's head and body.
This is that target man that McIntyre talked about. To be fair, he's backing into him.
It's a textbook over the back.
Like
coming from a guard right there.
Defend my center backs here. Michael Bush has had quite
over the back
night for himself.
We're going the other way.
I just got teed up. Again.
Yeah. You'd have earned quite a few of those on the basketball court, too. Did you play basketball?
When I was young. Yeah. I stopped when I was 12, 11.
Probably the right move. A lot of subs coming in for Cuse, getting ready here. Tried to play it back in the middle there, and now Vargas just sends it out wide. Out to touch. Played back, opportunity, first time shot. Ooh. Definitely the most threatening move for Binghamton as Spires came on at the senior late. 4 new players coming in for the Orange. Trying to run through them for you. Rodrigo Almeida, number 14, the transfer from Niagara. Lisbon, Portugal. His dad is the coach of the U21 team there, U20 team, excuse me. You got Michael Susky, number 99, the senior from Avon, Connecticut, transfer from BC, joining the match as well. Number 31, Ezra Widman, the only freshman on the roster, 31 in the middle of the pitch now. New England Revolution Academy. And there's Ezra. Or not, there's Ezra right there.
Camera shy, he's still young.
There he goes, he's in the mix now. And last but not least, Andrea de Blasio, another New York City native, a sophomore. Number 24 for Syracuse.
I thought the conversation about Ezra Widman was really interesting with Ian McIntyre because he said it kind of goes one of 2 ways, right? You come in and you're the only freshman and you've got that confidence and I belong, but you can also sort of clam up and think, well, how do I get involved in all of this?
Yep.
Certainly on the field of play doesn't seem to be an issue for him. Some bright lights for him tonight.
But you remember being a freshman athlete, there's only so many of you that understand everything that's going on, understand the trend, like the confusion, the transition, the newness, all these different challenges. He doesn't really have anybody to share that with.
No,
that's an interesting move.
I was lucky too because when I came in, first of all, my recruiting trip was with a friend of mine who, at that point in time, he was a freshman when I was a senior in high school. So when I came in, he's already got 1 year of experience, kind of took me under his wing. He lived in a house with 2 upperclassmen. So I was already involved and kind of belonged right away when I was at Stetson. So the ability to converse and sit at the cool kids table or whatever. Because look, you walk in and they're like, yeah, you're a freshman, go sit over there. That wasn't the case for me. I got very, very lucky in that aspect. It was after they met me that they
said
me to
we really not like to hang out with you.
Yeah.
Laid off, opportunity with a lot of space here. Diaz Bonilla gets it back in that right peg, looking to curl it, and it's over to the football practice field. Transfer from Princeton.
Is it like that for basketball? Smaller squad, but same dynamic?
It is different, but I do think when you come in with a group as freshmen, we were on campus a week before everybody else, so you begin to build that bond as freshmen, and you're all kind of going through it. We had to live in the normal dorms with everybody else. We had to live with everybody else. That's a great exchange and a great experience, while the whole rest of our team all lived in one house across the street. So yeah, that is important. But as I said before, Noah Singelman, Boselli, they talk about the culture of being so ingratiating, bringing people in. It sounds like there is no cool kids table, which is that's a testament, I think, to having a good program that Ian McIntyre has built and these guys have supported. Is trying to make everybody feel welcome, because when there's so many transfers from so many different places, here's how we do things at Syracuse. Yeah. And that's a message that they try to send.
That brotherhood's got to be the main point, right?
100%. And going to England together and seeing Champions League final doesn't hurt. Seeing Liverpool play Leicester doesn't hurt.
Well, and also, you know, it's a privilege certainly to wear the Syracuse uniform. It certainly is. It's a little bit more of a privilege this season because of that star that's up top. But, you know, we hear this from a lot of coaches that once you get that one, it's great that you're here, especially the transfers. You weren't a part of that. So they want to prove that they belong. You only do that by results on the field, which now that we're approaching 180 minutes in, it seems like things are headed in the right direction. Good ball.
Good ball played in. Opportunity. Looking for the cutback. Shot deflected, still loose. Diaz Bonilla still just dribbling into trouble there.
Ezra Woodman right on cue.
But a nice way to start your freshman campaign. De Blasio had a crack at it too. Coach Mack did say that you get some different players making the calls, reaching out to you, and they go in the transfer portal as soon as you win the title. And last year's team, a lot of transfers, but Levante Johnson successful, but it's for Seattle. Opoku coming from, another place that wasn't even relevant in terms of Division I soccer. Boselli, same thing. He was a junior college player. But now you're getting guys from all over the country that have played at D1 programs and been all league.
1 minute remaining.
His final long throw in. Hangs around. Almost came back to Michael Bush, but now it's a foot race. Michael Susky, the BC transfer, trying to track it down with Spires. Spires wins it and plays it back in as we tick down.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6.
And the #1 team of the nation defends their home field again. 2-0 against Providence, 3-0 against Binghamton as your final. Devin, as we cross to zeros, what's your takeaway as Syracuse moves to 2-0?
It's going to evolve. It's going to continue to get better.